might be asking, okay, I want to be a great artist. I don't want to be a technician. So what does that mean? What that means basically is that the way that you approach studying art and studying animation, studying whatever art industry you want to go into, in some ways is quite similar. It's just repeating certain fundamental practices again and again. You know how like you do all those things in high school where it's like you do a little still life. You probably wouldn't do a landscape, but you might, who knows, or a portrait or something like that. I don't know if you've noticed or if you have done this in your high school, but have you noticed that portraits, especially, or drawing from a figure or something, it's extremely hard. It's very, very difficult. A portrait is probably one of the hardest things you can do. And part of the reason and the greatness of that is that you're learning, your brain is moving so much when you're doing that kind of exercise. Like when you're doing a portrait, yeah, you sketch it first, so you're trying to get as accurate anatomy as you can, and then you might go straight to paint, or you might do a black and white, whatever, and then you're worrying about value, so the lights and darks of colors, and then the hue spectrum of colors. So is it too red, too yellow, too green, whatever, and then the saturation, is this color vibrant, or is it dull, or is it some middle ground in between? And those little calculations are really taxing for our brain. So actually doing something like a portrait painting is so demanding of our brain. And what that means is that we're learning. Those stresses that we put on our brain and our bodies to be able to replicate something exactly, or even not exactly, if you're being more expressive and you're doing it in a more impressionistic or whatever style, some kind of stylization, then you're thinking about a different set of principles, but you're still thinking all the time. And that's why I think being an artist and being a creative person is so important, because it makes our brains work so much more than something that has a more simple, linear problem-solving method to figure out, well, to problem solve. So art, there is no 100%. It's sort of, it's completely gray. I mean, some people would argue that there is a point where you're finished, but you could always add a little bit more. And sometimes adding too much makes it look over-labored and over-detailed, which has a negative effect on some viewers. So sometimes being looser is even better. So there's all these things to consider. And I think when we are painting or drawing, we're always considering this whole spectrum of different things. And I think our minds typically tend to work in a linear way, like, is it good yet? Is it good yet? Is it okay? It's good. I'm done. But it's not like that. That's one spectrum maybe, but then there's all these other spectrums in different ways, and it's like, is this the right aesthetic for what I want? Does this feel like I'm expressing myself through this, or does it feel like I'm just replicating something like a printer? There's all these thoughts going on, and the deeper you get into art, the more thoughts you have.